If you had to pick a word for 2025, what would it be? Me, it's resilience, because we have to be resilient in order to navigate what is going on in the world today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to SuttonsDaze. If you're new here, my name is Lisa, and we are all about pantry preparedness. And resilience is kind of just what we're going to have to do. Actually, it's what we always should have been doing, but admittedly, over the course of the last 30 years, we've become pretty complacent, you know? It's time to turn the clocks back a little bit, as uncomfortable as it's going to be, as unfortunate as it's going to be. As generations have grown up, I think one of the primary goals of parents has been to make the world a better place for their children than what they grew up in. It's not an uncommon thing to want to do for the people that you love, the people that you care for. And we have done it, and it has gone off the tracks, and we have done it, and it's kind of what we're used to now. But it has also created a sense of entitlement and a definite sense of complacency. Today's world is kind of like choppy seas, and the only way to navigate choppy seas is to know how to sail. And so it's my goal today to talk about some different ways to help all of us navigate those choppy seas. I have some ideas. I have some things that I'm going to talk about, but I want you to remember that I'm not saying to go out and learn all of them, okay? Because that serves literally nobody, unless it's something that you want to learn. But that learning some of them, making it a point to learn some of them, will help no matter who you are moving forward. Money's tight. I think it's only going to get tighter. And so one of the ways that we can become more resilient is to learn how to do for ourselves again. My perfect example is a lot of times in the comments, I see where there are widows and sometimes widowers that when their spouse is gone, there are things that their spouse did all the time that they didn't. And so it was handled. So they didn't have to learn about it. But then the spouse is gone, and all of a sudden they have to figure out how to do this after being reliant on somebody else handling it, you know, for sometimes decades. And then there's the times when nobody knows how to do it, and you have to hire somebody. I have seen people pay a significant amount of money to have somebody change a light fixture. Now, do I know how to do that? No. Am I guilty of not learning how to do it because Phil knows how to do it? Yep, I am. So I'm kind of making a list as I'm moving through this year of things that I just automatically assume Phil does and that I don't have to learn about, because I do a lot of things that Phil doesn't have to learn about. Do I think that if anything happened to me, he would pick up a canner and can a year's worth of food? No, I don't. But if anything happened to him and I had to swap out a light fixture, I would like to think that instead of spending a couple $100s, that's something that I could tackle theoretically. So let's go through the ideas. I understand that not everybody has the ability to do everything. So don't compare what you can or can't do to what somebody else does. Don't compare what yours looks like, you know, to somebody else's, because we're all on different paths. We all have different things that we need to navigate around. And that should not be the reason you don't do it. Let's take gardening, for example, because that's number one, okay? Food gardening. Not everybody can plant a great big garden. Not everybody has a field or a tractor or whatever the case may be. Some people grow their food in buckets on the patios. Some grow them in their window on a fourth floor apartment, right? Some people get allotments in a community garden. There's always a way to make it happen. I actually did have one comment once where somebody said, I have literally no light coming in to my apartment. There's no way I can grow anything. That's called a cave. It is not impossible. However, I guarantee there is some light, even if it's indirect, right? You don't need direct north facing, west facing, whatever light in order, you know, south facing. That's what it is. Light to grow anything. You don't. You need light. That's it. You know, water, dirt, light. You're good. So literally on a patio someplace, in your windowsill someplace, do what you can do. You don't need a green stalk. Are they cool? Yeah. You know, some people really like them. No, you don't need that. You can just as easily use 5-gallon buckets, old milk jugs, you know, anything that will hold dirt, drain water, and that you can place someplace that gets enough light in order to grow something. It doesn't have to be pretty, just like ugly chicken. It doesn't have to be pretty. It needs to function. And that's all that gardening is. So a real simple thing to do is to plant like a salsa garden, right? One tomato plant. That's all you need. Just one. Okay. One pepper plant. That's all you need. Just one. Plant it in recycled containers. It's an excellent way to not fill up the landfill. Okay. I am driving myself crazy trying to figure out all the different things that I can use some containers that I get on a regular basis for, really wishing that they provided the stuff in anything but a plastic container. But you can do that. Grow tomatoes, peppers, cilantro, grow them from seed. You can do it. The whole thing will cost you like, $3. You don't have to have, raised beds that are huge, and you don't have to have a big yard, and you don't have to be able to get down on the ground. I cart around a milk crate like it's my life, because it is. Because in order to work in the raised beds, I have to sit on that milk crate. That's just the way that it works for me, So you accommodate yourself with what you need. It doesn't cost very much. Will you fail sometimes? Absolutely, but learning how to do that is a skill that very much can come in handy moving forward while we try to be more resilient. My second idea is seed saving and crop rotation if you do any kind of gardening, right? So one, learn how to save seeds. While we still have the internet, not saying that it's going anywhere, or you have your print books, find out how to seed save. Find out how to grow the things that you like and save the seeds from them so that you can grow them again next year. Learn how to rotate your crops around. If you have raised beds, if you grow directly into the ground, if you reuse the same buckets, pots, or milk jugs, okay? You don't want to continuously plant the same plant in the same container because it will require extra nutrients added to it. Save yourself a couple bucks. Rotate your crops around. If you're planted in the milk jug tomatoes this year, next year plant them in the bucket and plant the peppers in the milk jug. Rotate things around so that it just naturally regenerates the soil the way that it's supposed to. It's a great way to save money, and it's definitely a skill to learn. I'm a huge fan of home canning and food preservation. I think that it gives us a form of independence like no other. I can have shelf-stable, quality, inexpensive food better than if I bought commercially canned, Do I home can everything? No, I don't, because it just doesn't make sense for me. There's no sense in me spending all the time, energy, and effort to go find peaches in my area when I can just literally pick up a couple cans for what we consume in a year, So you have to pick your battles, know what it is you consume the most of, and learn how to can it. Learn how to dehydrate it if that's applicable. If you have the extra funds, learn how to freeze dry it, okay? But those are the things that you want to be able to stock up on. Those are the skills that you want to be able to have. None of those three things is difficult to do. You just have to pick which one is more appropriate for your lifestyle. I mean, if you only eat a little bit, does it really make sense to spend $200 or $2,500 to $5,000 for a freeze dryer? Probably not. Even if you can eat it, 10 years from now, probably not. But if you save your produce and you freeze dry it, then you've got it moving forward. If having a freeze dryer is just not something that's appropriate for you, like me, I don't believe I'm going to get the return on investment for it, that it's a gadget that will definitely wane over time, and that time-wise, it's not functional for me. I can 20 pounds of chicken in 3 hours. It would take like 3 days to freeze dry half of that, So to me, it's not time efficient, and time is my biggest asset. That is my money. So, it depends on your lifestyle. It depends on, your circumstances, your finances, where you live, all the different things. So figure out what works best for you and what you can best manage. Well, I'm 70 years old. I don't know if I should can. There's some of you that have emailed me that are 70 and 80 that have learned how to can and are enjoying it and reaping the benefits from it. It's going to depend on you, your physical limitations, everything else. So learning some kind of food preservation is a skill that definitely helps us navigate the rough waters. Don't forget about fermenting or lacto preserving. Don't ask me, but because it's not something that I'm ever going to do. Fermenting, you guys, it's something a lot of people do. Sauerkraut is a fermented food. Practice. I'm not saying to go out and buy a case of cabbage, and make your own sauerkraut to start off with. Buy a head of cabbage and add some salt and learn how to ferment it. And you will be hooked forever, forever and ever. And it's just exactly that easy. There's always somebody who says, foraging. Everyone needs to learn how to forage. Okay, as I was explaining to my pals on a walk today when we were talking about different plants, dandelions are completely 120% edible, okay? And I did not stumble across all of the things that you could do with them until I moved here. And I get a ton of dandelions every single year. I also have a ton of deer and rabbits and bears and raccoons and possums that utilize the same space as those dandelions for their daily needs. I don't even want to think about it. Okay? No, sorry. There's just some things I'm not going to deal with. So it's possible, it's doable. There are different kinds of foraging that you can do. Definitely purslane. I have purslane jumping up everywhere. You want to learn how to forage, you want to see if it's something that you like, grab a bottle of ranch dressing, go grab some of that purslane, have yourself a little salad, see if it's something that you can choke down. You know what I mean? It just takes a minute to experiment and to go, I'm going to try this. Because yes, you can eat it. And yes, it will sustain you to some aspect if it's ever needed. It's a good skill. This one I believe in wholeheartedly. Basic first aid and CPR. So it's warm weather. People are doing more stuff, right? So check with your local Red Cross, your library, your fire department, any place locally that might be able to point you in the direction of where you can get a basic CPR class, a basic first aid class. Sometimes they're free. Sometimes there's a minimal charge, It'll take just a little bit of time to attend, and it is an excellent, life-saving, necessary skill that I believe that everyone should have. So definitely something to look into. Basic first aid, you don't need to go out and buy the same kit that I have, okay? I happen to live with Phil, who's a little bit accident prone. So I have a pretty big trauma kit. However, you don't need that big trauma kit. Would I recommend you have one? Sure. But if you don't want to go full bore into that, start a simple first aid kit. Collect everything in one place. I don't care if it's a basket, a bag, a bucket, whatever, so that it's all in one place and you know where it's at and you know you can grab it in case of an emergency. Simple things. A visit to the Dollar Tree, okay? Bandages, gauze, tape, figure out what you need. Antibiotic ointment. Yeah, whatever it is that you need, and put it in that basic, inexpensive first aid kit. It does not need to be a trauma bag. It needs to be something that functions. I don't remember exactly what the saying is, but what is it? 3 days you can go without water? So yeah, it's important for every aspect of everything we do, from consuming for hydration, for food, for cooking, for hygiene. Okay. So water is really important, but good, clean, pure sources of water are very difficult to come by anymore. I mean, anywhere. Your city water is remarkably safe. I have firsthand experience of one water treatment facility, and I know what they have to go through all the time to ensure that it's safe. So your tap water is perfectly good. Your well water may need to be treated a little bit. Ours has a lot of methane in it, right? So, okay, there's, only so much I can deal with that. And the animals can't deal with it at all. So I have to reverse osmosis the water for the animals. But I can cook in the water that we get out of our faucet. I can bathe in it. Yay me. We have a well. There you go. We were very water insecure when we moved in here. And I did not realize the effects of that because it's something that has stuck with me. We did not have potable water in this house for 2 weeks. I had to bring in all of the water for the animals. I had to bring in all of the water for us. And since then, I do tend to go maybe a little bit overboard. I have quite a few cases of bottled water that we cycle through. I have the Berkey system, the filtration system. I have the water purification tablets. I have all the stuff in order to make sure that I can access potable water. If the end of the world comes and I can no longer pump water from my well, get water out of my faucet, and we go through all of the bottled water that I have, I know that I can go out to that swamp-fed pond in my backyard and filter the heck out of that and purify it, and I have water to consume, at least until mid-August when we get kind of droughty around here. So learning what you need for where you are is important, but water is something that you definitely need to take into consideration. Inexpensive, right? Collect rainwater. Okay, fine. Not everyone can do it. Collect rainwater, okay? In clean 5-gallon buckets. That's all you need. Put a lid on that sucker. Put it away. You can use it for the bathroom facilities. You can use it for watering plants. You can use it for whatever. It's even potable once you clean it up a little bit, depending on whether it just fell out of the sky or came down a roof line. There's a whole bunch of different stuff to look into, but it doesn't have to cost a fortune. Do you need a Berkey? No, you don't. Should you have one? No. Would it be cool if everyone did? Yeah, it would. But water purification tablets will help with that, and filtering it through something like a coffee filter or a t-shirt, to get all the more solid stuff out of it. There are ways around it, things that you can learn. Learn how to access water if your normal options are not available. The next one is a home energy independence. Oh, this one's hard because when you think of that, you're like wind turbines or solar panels, that kind of thing. I have a dream. I have a lot of dreams, but I have a dream of putting solar on the house, even though I really do not believe that it is as effective, okay? But it's a backup. It would not be my main source, but it would be a backup. And when I think of my electric bill today and my angst over it, because it is just absolutely ludicrous, I need to think about that time in the future when I am older, when I cannot work as much, when I don't have the available cash coming in, but my electricity usage is still going to be there. What am I going to do then? When literally at the rate that it's going, because the rates are going up again this year, at the rate that it's going, any Social Security that I might collect, if it's still there when I collect it, would end up going to the electric bill, So I need to think of things to do in the future so that I can alleviate some of that pain. And that's normally when we learn the best, is when we are in pain, So I found out there's somebody locally that has a complete setup, even sells some back to the power company, and has managed to significantly lower the bill, even though 6 months out of the year, we are under a permacloud. Yeah. So I'm going to find this person. I'm going to offer them a cup of coffee and talk their ear off and try to figure out exactly what body part I have to give up in order to do this and whether or not it's even attainable, because I really can't take on another job, but it's something that maybe I can build up over time. Do I know anything about electricity? No. A ham radio test flummoxed my brain, okay? But I can take the time and I can make it a focused effort, and I can learn. And I can learn how to maintain it, because I may not always have Phil around, or Phil may not always have me around. So he's going to have to be involved too. One person doesn't carry the whole burden unless you are the only person. And that's the time when you definitely need to make sure that you are aware of and able to do things that you would normally have to hire out that are super simple. I'm not asking you to rewire your house, but if you can learn how to change a light fixture, that makes a huge difference. It really does. Alternative cooking methods. We talk about this all the time in the prepper community, right? My favorite that I actually forgot about in the book, Pantry Preparedness. Check it out. Links down below in the description box. Okay. A fondue pot. Yeah. It heats up the food that you have. Now, is it going to cook you a 4-course meal? Probably not. It will heat up the pre-made meals though. It will heat up water so that you can have coffee or tea or soup, whatever the case may be. Rocket stoves. Everybody's really fond of rocket stoves. I'm kind of like, okay, your grills, your propane burners, whatever, your wood stove. There are all kinds of alternative cooking sources. When our power went out, I couldn't use my oven, but I could use my canning cooktop, but I had to grab something to light the fire because it's electric ignition, right? Speaking of that, we just found out my brother-in-law was without power for a month because of that ice storm in Northeast Michigan. Yeah, you never know when this stuff's going to hit, okay? And can I tell you, he drove farther south than us to get gas. I'm like, that's just crazy. So alternative heating sources is very important. Alternative cooking methods, is important. This one, so carpentry and tool skills. I'm one of those people that says, I need a screwdriver. And Phil is the one that says, do you need a flathead? Do you need a Phillips head? Do you need a hexagon? What? Just give me a screwdriver, dude. I'll make it work. Give me a butter knife, No. Learn how to use tools that would come in handy for you. So for me, a hammer, multiple screwdrivers, a wrench, maybe a socket thingy. See, and that's my technical term, okay? But in addition to that, there's the lawnmower, there's the snowblower, there's the generator. Learn how to use them, learn how to repair them and maintain them. Don't leave it up to somebody else who might not always be around or who you might not be able to afford to hire. Plumbing and leak repair freaks me out. Absolutely freaks me out, okay? Because I'm like, I don't know, because I don't have to know everything. No, really, I do. I need to know where the main shutoff for the house is so that I can shut it off if something busts. I need to know how to figure out where that leak is coming from if a leak develops. I need to do basic maintenance, okay? Like cleaning drains, like the shower drain, or, being able to snake out toilets if that's the case. Knowing how to do all of these things is just basic everyday life things. You're not expected to be able to plumb the entire house or even replace a toilet, even though Phil replaces our toilets when we have to replace them. Is it an enjoyable job? Not so much. I think it's more disturbing mentally than actually physically, but a lot of people don't know how to do it. A lot of people don't know how to fix the ball and cock inside the toilet tank because it's just not been their thing and somebody else has always handled it. These are things that will save you amazing amounts of money and keep you from having to hire a professional or rely on somebody else to come fix it for you. These are basic things that will make you more resilient during trying times. A skill long gone, but not totally forgotten, is sewing or textile repair, right? Do you know how to fix the zipper on your jacket if it busts? Do you know how to replace the zipper on your jacket if it busts? Do you know how to hem a pair of pants? Do you know how to replace a button? Simple things like that. Can you sew a pillowcase? Yeah, those are really easy, trust me. But knowing some kind of sewing and repair helps things last longer. We've became a very disposable world where you can go buy a shirt for $5, And so when the button pops off or the zipper breaks or whatever, you just kind of go, oh God, and you throw it away or you do whatever with it. Whereas our parents, grandparents, whoever didn't have that option. My grandmother had one shirt and one skirt to wear every single day to go to school. She came home every single day and washed and ironed that shirt and that skirt and repaired what was necessary in order to take it back and wear it the next day to school. That's resilience. That's determination. And that's the way we need to start thinking. That's the way we need to make sure that we can do things so that if it becomes necessary or is just a good habit to have today, that we're not going out and just randomly replacing every little thing that breaks. Community networking. I hesitate to say bartering because people have romanticized the thought of bartering so much. I'm going to buy 500 cases of ramen so that I can barter if I need something. Somebody will take the ramen. No, they won't. Yeah, sure, if they're starving to death, but for the most part, no, they won't. It has to be of equal or greater value than what you're looking for. And it's just not common today. Yes, there are things that we barter pretty much on a regular basis. When I get the urge to bake, the people that Phil works with to get our truck fixed are constant recipients, right? I think I got a marriage proposal yesterday on those mini rhubarb pies. But yeah, so when he's like, hey, my buddy needs some tires. Can I dig through your tire pile in the back? And they're like, no, wait, check out these ones because they're like brand new. And Phil said, okay, great. How much do you want for them? He goes, nothing, just take them. Everything that you do for us. Kindness is the best introduction to bartering, friends. We do this all the time. I love to feed people, so I'm constantly feeding people. I love to cook and bake, so I am constantly feeding people. And when it comes time, if time comes where we need something, and literally we didn't need it for ourselves, Phil was looking for a friend who needed newer tires to put his wife's car back on the road so that he could save time. And Phil found him. Phil picked them up and it didn't cost a dime. It's just the way the universe works when you open up the door and you're nice to other people, you know? So there's always a way to build that community network so that you can swap ideas, so that you can learn things from each other, or you can trade services and goods. A community network is a beautiful thing to have. If you are somebody who is on your own, a single person on your own, then it's even more important, not only for those aspects, but for your health. I don't really like people. I get that. Okay. Working with the public for my entire adult life, yeah, I kind of get over them too, you know, but if you want to meet your people, you need to people. It's just the way it works. Are you going to find somebody every single time? No, you're not. But if you do it often enough and open yourself up to it, you will find some people that you have at least a few things in common with. You don't have to be soul twins, you know, but that you have at least some interests in common with. And then the world is yours. I've mentioned it as an example a few times. Basic electrical work, okay? Being able to change out a light fixture, being able to change a light switch. We have a couple of outlets here that have decided to stop working. We had one in the breezeway that decided out of nowhere to stop working. Phil tore it apart, replaced some things, still couldn't get it to work. Yeah, we found out after living here for, 14 years, that there's a light switch inside the garage connected to just that outlet that somehow got flipped. It's the little things, you guys, you know? So basic, really basic electric work. Purchase a voltage tester. They run $8 to $15, right? A set of basic screwdrivers, and you'll be able to safely replace a light switch or an outlet cover following free online tutorials. And don't forget to turn off the power if you're messing with the wires. Something that, as a northern person, I find very important is the skill to know how to build a fire and how to heat your environment, okay? We found out during the ice storm, one of our dazers in the Facebook group mentioned how, you know, she had the Mr. Buddy heater and she thought an overabundance of the cylinders of propane to run. And then she found out that they only run for 3 hours at a time before they're out. So she went through her entire stash, where one day she thought she was, you know, crazy hoarding them. And within a few days, she was completely empty, but she had heat. So those are the kinds of things that you have to learn. You have to know how to build a basic fire, because even if you can't build them on your patio or in your backyard, there may come a time where you need to. Learning how to build one is important. If you have a wood stove, it's really important because it doesn't heat the house otherwise. Figuring out those alternative heating sources is a great thing and what you need. There's nothing like trying to light a fire to discover that you not only don't have matches, that there are no lighters. How am I going to do this? There are all kinds of ways. You just have to take a little time, investigate, and give it a try. It's something to do on a Friday afternoon. Okay, back into the pantry aspect, food budgeting and meal planning. I don't want to budget my food. I know, nobody does. We have spent a long time just doing what we wanted, right? Eating the foods that are manufactured and getting what our heart desires when we see it at the store, maybe. If you have been looking at it, you know, you kind of know. There was a point in time where I knew that if I bought bananas, it was because I was financially comfortable at that moment. Because to me, bananas were a luxury. Fresh bananas were a luxury. Literally, that was my bar, okay? It's not that they were expensive. It's that they were a luxury. So there are different things that we all have to deal with and all have to do. But being able to budget food and meal planning, which is an integral part of food budgeting, is a way to keep ourselves in check so that the overindulgence doesn't kick in, so that the I just spent how much at the grocery store for a week doesn't kick in, you know. Being able to do something that simple and successfully navigate the week is a great way to become more resilient, because there's going to be a whole bunch of people, potentially a majority, who are freaking out because they can't get certain things. And most of those things will be luxury items like chips. You know, another big one is waste reduction and composting. I struggle, quite honestly, quite a bit with waste reduction. I compost everything that I can come up to compost. I have a paper plate with coffee grounds on it right now. Between the worms and the compost pile, you know, Yeah, it's going to town. But with the packaging that we have nowadays, I'm dealing with a lot of wasted space in my trash can, like the containers I was talking about earlier. There is so many of them. There has to be something that I can do with them because the company only sells it in these plastic jugs, and it's something that I need to have. What am I supposed to do with all this? So being conscious about what we're purchasing, being conscious about the different things that we can use for it. I'm not kidding. I think I'm going to turn them into planters because I go through like 6 a month. But turning kitchen scraps into compost, super simple, okay? Do yourself a DIY bin. It doesn't have to be beautiful and wonderful, it just has to compost and break down kitchen scraps. Yeah, and you can do it. It probably costs less than $5 if you get whatever from a thrift store, and all you have to do is drill a few holes in it for airflow, throw in a little bit of dead leaves or grass, a little bit of cardboard, you're good. And it's free dirt. If this is applicable for you, because it's not applicable for everybody, but some kind of animal husbandry is a great way to be more resilient and self-sufficient because, oh yeah, I spent an extraordinary amount of money on 50 birds this year. The one thing that I noticed between hatching out my own and the ones that I get from the hatchery is that mine are healthier. Theirs, I normally have to deal with pasty butt or whatever, So, yeah, it's easier to have them do it, and then I don't have to worry about culling roosters later. But it's cheaper and more effective for me to do my own. Worst case, I have to butcher some roosters and they go to freezer camp. Well, is that a worst case? I raised them. I know what they ate. I know how they were treated, and now it's in my freezer for consumption. Maybe not a loss. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Some kind of home security and self-defense. I don't care what age you are. I don't care what condition you are, okay? Some kind of home security, whether it's bars in your doors when you go to sleep at night, your doors and your windows, or actual security cameras, or some kind of alarm system, or a dog, okay? Or whether it's self-defense in, you go and learn some kind of martial art, or you take an actual self-defense class, or you learn how to use certain tools for self-defense aren't typically allowed in Canada, whatever the case may be. And if none of that sounds appealing and you are somebody who walks with a cane, walk with that cane like you own the pavement you're on, okay? Walk with self-assuredness, with confidence, and with a don't mess with me kind of attitude, because that right there is a form of self-defense too. And it's really good for your posture. I'm not saying to do all of these. Please don't get me wrong. Pick 2 or 3. Do some research. Try them out. You've got all summer. What else you got going on? Try it. It doesn't take much time to give it a try. If you fail, try it again. If you fail that time, make some adjustments. Try it again. If it's something you're really interested, keep trying till you succeed. None of what I talked about costs a lot or any money. A lot of it is just the tenacity to get out there and do it, to become more self-reliant, more self-sufficient, and not self-sufficient in, I have 50 acres and I farm. Self-sufficient in, I live alone and I can change a light switch or a light fixture or fix a leak under the sink, because that right there is going to save you a lot of money. What self-sufficient thing did I touch on are you going to give a try to learn? Are you going to attempt to learn and incorporate into your day-to-day? Instead of calling your spouse or your friend or your kids or somebody you've got to pay, what are you going to learn to do to be more self-sufficient moving forward? As an aging community, the majority of the population is older significantly, okay? We need to be able to take care of ourselves because they're not here to do it for us, because nobody owes us anything and tomorrow's not promised. But the more that you can take care of yourself, be self-reliant, be self-sufficient, the longer you've got poking around irritating people, which is my main goal in life. If you want to see some different ways to stock up your pantry for next to nothing, check out this playlist right here. Until next time, everybody, be safe. Keep stacking it to the rafters, my friends.